Hello students, welcome to SST class. Today we are going to learn a new chapter that is from history, chapter number 6, Early Kingdoms and Republics. By the end of Rigvedic period, the position of the ruler became very important. He was extremely powerful and lived a luxurious life. We have read that earlier, the rulers were chosen by the Jana. But by 1000 BCE, this trend was changing. Sometimes a person became a Raja by performing the Ashwamedha or horse sacrifice. The king who organized it was considered very powerful. During this sacrifice, a special horse was allowed to roam free for a year. It was followed by the king's soldiers. Whichever kingdom the horse roamed into, they had to accept the king's supremacy or fight with him. Varnas. There are 4 Vedas. They are Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda, and Atharva Veda. The Rig Veda was composed first. The other 3 were composed later and are also called the later Vedas. The society was divided into 4 groups or Varnas. Each Varna had a different role in society. The 4 groups were the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. The Brahmins were the most powerful and enjoyed a respectable position in society. They performed all rituals and sacrifices and thus had an important place in society. They could study and teach the Vedas. They claimed to belong to the highest Varna. Next to the priests came the Kshatriyas, who were the warriors. They had to protect the people. These 2 upper Varnas had many privileges. They were not required to pay taxes and were never given severe punishment. The Vaishyas were the cultivators, traders, and artisans. They paid the taxes. Both the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas could perform sacrifices. The last were the Shudras. They lived a cursed life. They performed all menial jobs and served the upper classes. They could not listen to the Vedas or participate in any religious ceremonies. They lived in the outskirts of the villages. They could not even take water from the same well as the other people. Some people were below the Shudras in position. These were the untouchables. They were the people who performed burials and cremations. Untouchables were buried entirely from temples and sometimes were not even allowed to set foot on temple grounds. If the shadow of an untouchable touched the Brahmin, he or she would be polluted. So untouchables had to lay face down at the distance when a Brahmin passed. Janapadas. Many territorial states emerged in different parts of the country. These were known as Janapadas. The word Jana means people and Pada means foothold. They were ruled by Rajas. These were regions consisting of urban and rural settlements along with their inhabitants. Each of the Janapadas was named after the Kshatriyas tribe or the Kshatriya Jana who had settled there. The Janapada was ruled by a Raja or king. A chief Purohita and a Senani assisted the Raja. Mahajanapadas. The larger Janapadas came to be known as Mahajanapadas. These were large kingdoms. The term Janapada, Mahajanapada, is derived from Sanskrit and it means great country. Buddhist texts tell us that there were 16 Mahajanapadas between 600 BC and 300 BC. The Mahajanapadas had a capital city. The Rajas maintaining standing armies, the soldiers were trained and paid regular salaries. Conflict between the kings of Mahajanapadas was common. They fought to increase their territories. The states had many cities. The cities were fortified. Tall walls were strong and made by bricks, stones, or wood and were constructed around the cities. This had many advantages. The wall was a protection against enemy attacks. Also, the kings displayed their power and wealth by building these tall walls. Types of government. Two types of government existed in the Mahajanapadas. One was monarchical and the other was republican. Monarchical government. This type was hereditary, the power passed on from the king to the son. They maintained standing army. For example, Magadha dynasty. Next, republican government. This type had an elected head and was not hereditary. No standing army was maintained. For example, Vaji. Advances in agriculture. There were two important advancements in agriculture which led to increased agricultural production. Firstly, now iron plowshares were used to till the land. Also, iron axes helped to clear land for agriculture. Secondly, farmers began adopting new techniques in agriculture. Paddy seeds were not sown in the field directly. Saplings were grown and these were then transplanted in the fields. This led to better rice production. Tax collection. The Raja needed resources for maintaining an army and also for fortifying the cities. The people had to pay taxes to the king who appointed officials to collect taxes. Bali, which was a voluntary tax, became compulsory. The farmers paid a tax called bhaga. It was fixed at 1/6 of the produce. The herders paid tax in the form of animal produce. Artisans paid tax in the form of a day's extra work for the king. And traders paid taxes on sales. The hunter-gatherers also contribute to the taxes by providing some forest produce to the king. Magadha. Of all the Mahajanapadas, Magadha came into prominence. It became the seat of a powerful monarchy and the center of an extensive empire. The kingdom of Magadha lies in the area of modern-day Bihar, south of the Ganges. The first ruler of Magadha was Bimbasara. His son Ajatasattu succeeded him. Both these rulers were very ambitious and followed expansionist policies. Nanda dynasty was another important dynasty that ruled Magadha and expanded its territorial boundaries. The last ruler of the dynasty was Dhanananda, who was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya, who later established the Mauryan dynasty. Vaji. Vaji was one of the most prominent Mahajanapadas. It was a powerful republican state or Ghanasangha. It was named after the ruling clan, the Vajis. It was a flourishing republic state at the time of Mahavira and Buddha. Its capital was at Vaishali. Thank you so much, students.